The world is full of systems, whether living or non-living, manufactured and natural systems, even ourselves, are built by the system around us. In this presentation, we will dive into a specific system in the government, specifically the lawmaking process.
But before that, let us first review the Philippine government's three branches: the judiciary, legislative, and executive. First, the Supreme Court is the government's judicial branch, which is led by the Chief Justice along with 14 associate justices who are tasked to interpret the law, apply the law in real-life situations, and decide if the law violates the Constitution. Meanwhile, the legislative branch, which is the Congress, is composed of two chambers, namely the Senate and the House of Representatives, each composed of their respective members. They are authorized to alter and repeal laws through the power vested in them. And lastly, the executive branch is led by the President, Vice President, and the Cabinet, whose main task is to carry out and enforce laws. As mentioned, we'll focus on the lawmaking system in our country, which involves the legislative branch. So why do we need to know the lawmaking process? It is essential to visualize the process to understand the legislative branch's significant role as a decision-making body in the government. In addition, it promotes transparency on how a bill becomes a law by knowing the preceding amendments, rules, and regulations.
This flowchart created by our group illustrates a detailed and complete beginning-to-end process of creating a law in the Philippines. The system, along with its steps, will be further elaborated in the following slides. A bill or panukalang batas will undergo 3 readings before it becomes a law or Republic Act. The bill will be introduced in the first reading by stating the title and authors in the plenary. The Committee on Rules will study the bill to deliberate its provisions. Then, in the second reading, the main sponsor or sponsors will face the members of Congress and shall defend the bill by justifying why it must be passed. Also, during this process, amendments or minor changes may arise. It will move on to the next and final reading when the bill is approved with or without amendments. Lastly, the third reading is the final phase of the House whether to approve the bill and its affiliated amendments or not. When a bill is approved after the scrutiny of the Houses, it will be transmitted to the President.
However, when the Senate and the House of Representatives disagree on the bill's provisions, a Bicameral Conference committee will be conducted to reconcile them. The committee is composed of representatives from the two chambers to ratify or legally approve the reconciled amendments of the bill.
When the bill is signed, it will be forwarded to the office of the President to have it signed. After the President examines the bill, they may sign it into law or outright veto it. When the bill is vetoed, the bill is returned to the originating House and they will either accept the veto or have a two-thirds majority vote. On the other hand, when the President fails to decide on the bill within 30 days, it will lapse into a law. The approved bill becomes a Republic Act. 15 days after being publicized in the official gazette or at least 2 national newspapers of general circulation.
And while all of this may sound complicated, it's all actually quite simple. The lawmaking process is a non-living system composed of regularly interacting and interdependent components forming a unified whole. Despite it being composed of biotic factors, namely humans, for it to be considered as a living system, the said lawmaking process observed is still a non-living system due to the fact that the processes mainly involved are mainly social and do not really involve biological processes. In this context, lawmaking is just one of the many small parts that build up the political system as a whole, composed of different steps that the Philippine Congress leads, and altogether they form a system. Certainly, these parts affect each other, as when one component is missing, the entire system malfunctions. So we can say these parts together do produce an effect that is different from when they work on their own.
Without lawmaking, the government and society wouldn't be able to function properly, and we would slowly deteriorate as a nation. The chaos to be brought about by the absence of laws is very much unimaginable, so we highlight the importance of this system in our country and in our world. With that said, we wrap up this discussion by stating that the process of lawmaking in our country is just one of the many examples and evidence that prove that we do indeed live in a world of systems. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.